Hey everybody, Dark Hour 717 here, and just wanted to do an update on the condition of mining and a tutorial for 3.12.1. And what we're going to do is jump in our Prospector here, and we are going to go out and take a look at what we can do with this thing. So the Prospector holds 32 SCU of raw material, 0 actual cargo trading space. It's available at Lorville at New Deal for $2,061,000. Can be pledged for $155 US and rented at all L1 stations based on the time of length that you'd like to rent it for. The vehicle itself actually does require some upgrades. I put a VK00 quantum drive in it for $43,300, and the Lancet mining head, which has several locations it's available at, and you will always get a better price when you buy it at one of the L1 stations or the L2 station it's available at. The recommended consumables that I use is going to be the Surge, which has availability at several different stations. Again, it's cheaper if you get it at an L1, and at the Optimum at many stations, and also available at Microtech. Again, it's a lower cost at one of the Lagrange stations. Alright, so here we are. We've arrived at Hur L3, which is one of my main spots for coming for quantanium, and what I will usually do is start on the outside and begin scanning, working my way around and in towards the station. The way I scan is going to be by adjusting the mouse wheel so that the scan indicator, which is a dotted circle line, is just inside the solid circle on my HUD, and that focuses your scan a little bit better. I will do one full power scan and then cut it back to about 3/4, and this will allow for a little bit more pinpointing and going through. As I find different things, I will cut down the amount from 3/4 down to 1/2 and 1/4 as I get closer and closer to it. If you retain that 3/4 or full power as you get closer to them, you'll see that it disappears a lot, it jumps around. So trying to adjust as you go, focusing on the rock if you don't have a visual on it, helps keep that in your sights so that you know exactly where you're going and can find the rock that will hopefully have what you're looking for in it. And here we found one rock within 10 minutes of arriving here. And we're going to want to move to anywhere from between 50 meters to 120 meters based on the stats of the Lancet is the effective range. You can move closer. Some people say they feel it gives you a benefit. Others say they don't see a difference. I try to usually just keep it right within that effective range based on its stats. And we'll just start warming it up with our standard laser, not using any consumables yet until we start seeing some movement in the gauge on the right of our HUD there. And then once we actually get that going, I'll hit that Surge consumable, and that will jump it way up on the scale. And then I will go back to the standard laser and try to just pinpoint a good area where I get a reaction from that gauge. As you'll see, I move it around slightly in different directions, looking at what kind of reaction is coming from the gauge, and when I see that it hits a spot that makes it go up, I focus on that area to continue bringing that gauge up towards the green, and will wait before using my Optimum until I feel I'm close enough to where it's going to be beneficial. You don't want to use it too early because it may not actually help with anything. And as you can see, I hit the Optimum there. The green range for breaking the rock has increased and is wider now so that I can focus on keeping the gauge in there. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but if you just keep adjusting and looking for that reaction, you can pinpoint it down. If it runs out of time, you can definitely use a second shot of the Optimum to reopen that up. I'll usually wait until I can see if I can get it up there. That is why I will typically load one slot with Surge and 2 slots with Optimum. I have played around with other consumables And I can say that these two are my absolute favorite, and I can definitely break some large rocks with these. And there we go, we've got that rock broken, and then we would go through and break the secondary rocks down into smaller bits and extract what we need. Just remember, on those secondary rocks, you don't need that surge. You only have to use it on the initial break in my experience, and you should have enough surge loaded that you can at least get through 2 or 3 rocks before you have to worry about even running out of the optimum. So you'll see here as we go through and we look at another rock here, we're going to do the same process. This one is fast forwarded so that it doesn't take as much time, and we get it right in the center of the green there. It ran out of time, so I launched another one, and there we go. It is now broken. We'll go on and move to those secondary rocks where, again, you'll see I don't use the surge at all, and we'll get those broken down. You just have to be very careful of that red zone. And keep in mind, if you do use the optimum and it runs out of time and you're at the higher level of the green area, when the optimum runs out, it can push you into the red area and overcharging the rock. So you want to try and be as centered as possible while you're using the optimum is the ideal place, so that when it runs out of time, it doesn't push you into that red and overcharge the rock on you. If the rock does overcharge, one of two things is going to have to happen. You're going to have to turn off the laser or get it off that rock and let it cool down. If you haven't overcharged it too much, that will allow you to go back to it once the red is gone, or it'll overcharge and either blow up and destroy everything, including you most likely, or it will just have a little bit of the overcharge when the green tops out, and it will cause the rock to explode and not completely obliterate itself, but will spread out across a wider area that you'll have to move around much more to go extract whatever may be left, and the totals typically are not the same as before you started.
Finding everything all right?
So here we are at the refinery, and you'll see here that you do have the ability to sell it as raw ore. In this case, it was about 129,000 that I was going to get if I sold it raw, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the terminal here and get a refinery job going. We can go over this. So you come in here, you want to select your ship over on the left side, and then set up a work order. And what that's going to do is going to bring up the contents of your prospector, and then you have all your methods. I always use the dinks. It's the longest period, and then it's the moderate cost and high yield, or I'm sorry, very low speed, moderate cost, high yield. That's what I will use the majority of the time, but on this trip I did use a couple of the high speed ones in order to test the selling of refined materials. But once you get that in there, then you're all set to go. You let it sit. It will send you a message once it's all completed, and it will stay there until you go and pick it up. And once you're ready, go pick it up, put it into one of your ships, and haul it off to try to sell it. And also keep in mind that you can have several refinery jobs going on all at the same time at different locations. There's no limit in the refinery other than the time length it takes them to process it. So you can have multiple refinery jobs going on at CRU L1 as well as Auec L1, and also have more refinery jobs going on at Mike L1. So you can stack them in each of those locations, pull them as you see fit to go out and sell when you need some AUEC. And the only thing that should wipe those out of there is if they do some type of patch update, which is always a risk that you take. Now, one thing that I've heard two different roads on is, should you break down the entire rock and pull the ore after the fact, or pull it as you extract it as you are breaking the rocks? I've done it both ways. I've seen one time I had a glitch where the first rock I broke, I went back to go extract, and everything as far as the quantanium had gone inert. Most of the time I will just grab it and extract the quantanium as I'm going. Because of the SCU limit on the Prospector, I can do that in enough time to be able to still get back and get to the refinery, drop it off without being too pressed for time. So it's really going to come down to a personal preference with that one. I recommend doing what you feel is easiest for you, and you can't go wrong with that. The most important thing being that you want to make sure that you keep track of your time once you start pulling quantanium, and you're watching that clock in the lower right hand corner so you know when the cargo is going to go volatile. So typically most of the areas that I mine, there's an 8.5 to 9 minute limit for me to leave and get back to the station. If I don't leave by 9 minutes to 8.5, then I will most likely not make it. So watch that clock and get on the road on time. All right, so we did some mining with the Prospector. I was able to pick up 2 of my refinery orders and had a total of 58 SCU in quantanium. I was able to sell all of that and made about 500,000, give or take a little bit. It did take a little bit of time. It actually required 2 server hops and waiting for 2 server cycles to go through, but I was able to get it all sold. Overall, I think we're still having the issues with the selling of the refined ore, but definitely you can still make some money with selling it raw. With the first few trips there, I had probably close to 390,000 between 3 rocks. So you can still make some good profit selling it raw, of course, if you can refine it. What I was able to sell here was only 2 trips that I made of not 100% quantanium, but it's still an issue. So just know that if you're gonna do the refining, as soon as it's complete, you may want to bring it in here, get it sold. It'll reduce the amount of time that you have to sit here, or if you're going to stockpile it, expect that you're going to have to leave your ship at that port with to alleviate the risk of losing it or crashing it, and just come by here and sell what you can as you get a chance to. Overall, I hope this tutorial helped everybody, and the update for my past tutorial. And hit the like and the subscribe button. Don't forget to follow on Twitch. And check out Amrock's Fang org. We welcome everybody, new or veteran, and are always happy to help everybody learn their way through the verse. But thank you again for checking it out, and we will see you next time. Thank you.